Alright, now that we've had a chance to take a look at the game on the table and some of its components, let's kind of talk about what we think. As far as like the components in this game go, I myself was pretty blown away with the quality of the game. We're talking about a game that's been out of production now for years, was developed in these little $10 card packs, $10 to $15. The art was amazing for me. Sarah's got kind of a couple cards that really stood out to her.
I forgot the name. I am in love with the Flit. The Flit, they're just, as soon as Zachary opened the box, I was like, I need to play them. I don't care what they do. I need to use them. They're just amazing. They're completely and utterly eye-catching. Every one of their characters is just gorgeous. If you have a chance, go back, look at our On the Table segment, because I will be showing off a few of these guaranteed. And, oh god, I just love everything about them. Their names, I noticed something earlier when I was talking to Zach. I was going through their names, and every one of them has an amazing name. We've got Squadron Leader Squeak, Twitter Tweet, Trillaling, Cheap Chirrup, Steep Stoop. And then we have Proud Phoenix Phil and Carl Kamikaze. I don't know why, but I just adore them. And I think it's all because of the ridiculous names. I know you had a couple groups that you liked more than the others as well.
The thing about this game that I love the most is the fact that for every single faction, they decided to just hand them over completely to one specific artist. So you get completely different art styles with every faction, but at the same time they were supervised so well that the art fits together on the table, even though some of the factions look very, very different. I really liked the kind. They've got this kind of, like brownies from Willow. They're these kind of little ninjas, and yeah,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
yeah, they're like the Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah.
They have this really cool gang up effect, and the thing that just makes the gang up effect perfect is that the names on them are hilarious once you get them on the table. So you'll have like no stopping, no clue, no respect, or you'll have top notch, top dog, top banana, and you're just playing these great big gangs of these, you know, Lost Boys all together. I also really kind of had an eye on the Aqua. They're really cool. They've got this really cool fantasy mermaid look to them. The other things that I really was impressed by is if you played the original game, back when it was a CCG, your scores were kind of kept track of with these little paper or cardboard chits that got shifted around the table. Well, when they decided to box the CCG together, they decided, you know, if we're going to box the whole thing, we may as well go completely overboard. So now your score counters are these custom sculpted dragons. All three of them are completely different, and they all have kind of a cool elemental look to them. So the fire dragon's this big, beefy, scaly guy. The earth dragon has more of that kind of forest worm look to him, and the water dragon's really kind of thin and willowy. Snake-ish. Yeah, snake-like. Yeah. And then they added in, for custom game rules, these really cool acrylic crystals. And then you used to have to play with this kind of paper game mat, and instead they went overboard and they produced a silk finished game board that actually has the turn phases and everything on it. It's really well done. Production value for me on this one is absolutely off the charts stunning. The cards are even silk finished. They've got these beautifully rounded corners on them. I haven't really found anything in the production that I can knock them for, except they used the standard kind of Fantasy Flight, throw it all in one box kind of box insert that doesn't have any separators in it. And that was, you kind of have to rubber band all your decks or put them in, you know, boxes or whatever, baggies, yeah. That's the only downside. I really can't knock them for that because every single deck builder I've seen in the last year has been done that way, so I still have to give them a 5 for quality.
Absolutely. I love it. It's amazing to look at, amazing to play with.
Yeah. One thing that we do have to knock them for is a ease of play issue. So, one of my pet peeves in games is when a game comes with multiple rule books, and it'll teach you part of the game here and then want you to play that part, and then teach you another part in another rule book and want you to play that part, or even worse, in the new rule book, it overwrites the old rules. And that's the case with this one. So you get this already overwhelming rulebook that is a little mixed up, and it assumes that you're only going to be playing with the starter decks through the entire rulebook. And they don't really reference cards as well as they should in this one. And then just to kick you while you're down, they throw in another rulebook that is not particularly well organized, throws in all kinds of new terminology. It totally changes a lot of the rules that you were overlooking before in the previous rule book. It's too much. If you're going to give us this many concepts, give them to us in one rule book and do so in an organized manner. On the upside, though, this being a dead CCG, you're getting every single card that was ever produced for the game.
Yeah.
That being said, you'd think, you know, deck building and all that's going to be really tough, and I know you don't do a lot of deck building stuff.
I really don't. I'm terrible at it.
So, what the team did when they put this together, and I think this is something that people should look in doing for every deck building game from now on. Customizable card game. At the bottom of each card, and we're going to show you this in the tabletop segment, they give you a code by which you build the starter deck. They give you another code by which you build your faction deck. And then they give you these awesome little stacks of extra cards that all have their own little codes as expansions. So you just grab the code that you want, knowing that it plays a particular way, and you slip it into the deck that you're playing. You also, if you want to get really into deck building, you have these cool Inquisitor cards that have rules listed on them for how to customize your deck. They tell you how many new cards to put in, they tell you how much outside influence you can have in your deck. So deck building in this game is astoundingly simple, and there's no amount of customization. There's no limitation, rather, to the amounts of customization you can do in this game. As far as ease of play goes, Sarah, what did you think?
It took me about a full round before I really understood what I was doing, but once you figure out the base concepts, it all comes pretty easily. You only play one character in your turn, so that makes it, very simple. It's pretty much you just read the instructions on the card and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and there's not as much rule trumping as there is in games like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
These ones do stay pretty close to the base rules. They just tweak some of the little aspects, like the only playing one character card. You have pairs, where you can play 2 character cards, or you've got my gangs, where you can play a number of them. So they don't really break rules, they more of bend rules, and it kind of builds on the concepts with each deck you play. So they start you out playing the Hoax and playing the Volca, and they're really simple decks that are easy to play with. The Hoax I like. They're fun. But the Volca I wasn't a big fan of, and I would almost suggest going with more complicated decks to start, or you're kind of watering down the flavor of the game, and it concerns me that you're starting with such pallid decks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Overall, this game is very easy to learn, as long as you watch an instructional video or take your time and wade through the rule books. If you're gonna go with the rule books, just expect you're gonna spend a week playing through each little segment with each deck as they tell you to learn the rules. If you don't want to do that, catch an instructional video. I'm gonna try to get one of these up here later. It's way simpler just to have somebody teach you this game. It's such a simple game to be complicated this way. Overall, as far as ease of play goes, this is such a portable game. So easy to learn. I mean, I have to put it kind of... I think because of the rulebook, I've got to say like 3.5. It's a little better than average, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the rulebook really does bog it down a little bit, overcomplicates just about everything about what would be a very simple game to play. So yeah, I would say high 3s, low 4s.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when it comes to replay value in this game, this is where she and I are going to start to disagree a lot. Because I am a CCG fiend. Especially these quick little CCGs that are extremely competitive. For me, this is a game that I could play, you know, every week for the rest of the year. I would probably put this pretty high in my games for the year. It's going to vary from person to person, I'll say that much. Being a card game, there is a luck element.
Yes, there is.
Now, that luck element will be mitigated by the fact that you're playing a very small deck, so you know that eventually your cards are going to roll around.
The question is, will they roll around in time?
Yeah, and have you been playing CCGs long enough to know how fast to cycle cards and when to push your luck? Mm-hmm. Because out of about 10, 12 games of this that I've played, I've won 11.
I won 1 out of every game I played, and I had a really bad run. And I think given time, playing it a little while more, it will begin to grow on me. But as I had a very, very, very bad run, I don't want to play it that much. I think... And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying, for me personally, if you lose a game every time you play it, it's going to start to wear on your nerves. And I think after a break, I will pick this game back up again, but not for a little while.
My suggestion, if you feel that there's just too much luck element in this, is do custom deck building. Start playing around with some of the cards that they give you so that you can start making the deck operate the way you want to, because if you are just never seeing characters, there's little upgrade packs that'll throw in almost nothing but characters. If you're feeling like you're not getting your support cards, there's upgrade packs that'll just throw in support cards. So there's ways to mitigate that. Now, here's my pro tip for this game. The standard rule says that when you get 3 of these on your side, you win. Now, it can happen, and I personally have done it, that you will attract all 3 of these dragons in a single move in 1 turn. That makes for a really short game.
Little bit, yeah.
Unless you have a time constraint don't ever play that way. There's no reason to. When you're talking about playing a full tournament set with these, which is the only way to play this game, they give you these really cool little acrylic crystals. When game conditions are met and the game ends, you get one of these crystals for winning the game. And then each player, whether they won or lost, gets a crystal for however many dragons they have on their side at the end of the game. What this means is that if I attract all 3 dragons in one turn, the game's not over. And my opponent still has the opportunity to win. And quite often, the person that attracts the dragons the fastest is not necessarily going to be the winner, because a lot of the time when you play that aggressively, you're going to end up decking yourself over and over and over, and you're just giving your opponent these little crystals, and they rack them up, and 5 wins the game. If you're having too quick of a game, go for 7 of these. The tournament rules, absolutely the only way to go. The only other thing to watch out for that's gonna kind of mess with play for people is some of the theming in some of these decks. So there are decks in this game that are hyper complicated and screw around with the rules. I'm looking at you, Buka. There are decks that are extremely pallid and bland, Volca. And then there are decks that are just blatantly questionable. The Mimics, in particular, the Aqua to a degree, they have a very 1980s kind of pulp fantasy vibe going on, and they are a little revealing. Now, none of them are going to be overt, but they're really getting close.
About as close as you can.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you have a problem with those kinds of decks, if you have a problem with that kind of imagery, know up front that you're getting 2 to 3 decks in here that you're going to want to set aside. The remainder of the decks in here are extremely innocent. Yeah, yeah. They don't even really have a gore factor at all.
No, the Flit are about as innocent as they come.
Yeah, the hoax are just kind of like old wizardly looking dudes. With the kind, you've got the Lost Boys kind of thing going on. They're very innocent. The Volca have a couple cards that you might consider a little revealing, but they're really not pushing it much. It's like a onesie swimming suit is about as revealing as they get. But overall, you do have that kind of 1980s fantasy aesthetic, so beware of that.
Look through your decks before you hand them to anybody.
Yeah, and if you're going to be playing with kids, look into deck building, because you can make very safe, very fun-to-play decks with this game. You are getting a pile of cards in this game, so there's a lot of options. In fact, you come with a total of 9 decks, and then all of your customization options ready to go. This means that you have so many different pair-up opportunities that you can be playing this game for a very long time if you don't let yourself burn out from game losses or from playing the same deck over and over thinking you'll get better. If you can't play a deck, trust me, you're not going to get better in this game. And if you're going to be playing the tournament rules and you want to have a lot of fun, trade out your decks every game. Makes for a lot of fun. Your opponent never knows what's coming, and you get kind of a new feel for every round. You know, I personally have to give this a 5 for replayability, just because there's so many options.
I'm going to give it a 4.5, mostly, you know, for that luck element. It always gets to me. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody has those good luck streaks and then those terrible luck streaks, and that's kind of what I was going through every single time I played this game. So I'm giving it about 4.5 just because of that. But you know, honestly, if you make your own deck, if you suit it to what you're looking to play like, it could definitely hit a 5 with me.
Okay, so we're kind of coming to consensus on a pretty solid 4 then.
4.5,
Yeah.
4, yeah.
Yeah, I'd keep this right around a 4 because I would love to see a revision in the rule book, and I would love for them to kind of consolidate the play styles into a single tournament rule. Because if you're playing the individual game, it can be a 30-second game.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fun. Shuffle your cards. First player plays out his cards and wins. If you're playing the full tournament rules, I don't think I've had a game yet that's been
Under 15
more than an
minutes.
hour.
And not under about 15 minutes either, if you're doing the full tournament.
Yeah, the full tournament, 15 minutes to an hour. It's
Depending
pretty
on
easy.
what characters you're playing and who you're playing with. Yeah,
Yeah, because a couple of these decks turtle,
yeah, they do.
and a couple of them try to take you out in one turn. So, yeah, pretty solid 4.
Yeah, about a 4 for me.
All right. And if you guys have any questions or comments or games that you'd like to see in the future, just go ahead and post them right down in the comments, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.